Welcome everyone. We're just going to start in a few moments, giving folks some time to transition into today's webinar. We'll start in just a few minutes. Welcome in. I see the numbers rising. Happy Monday. Thank you so much for being with us today. We're just going to wait a few more seconds before we dive in, giving people some space to get situated where they are now. While folks are joining, feel free to please drop your location or program into the chat, whether you're a TRIO professional, student, feel free to drop your university. Here at the Pell Institute, our team is in office at the DC location. When thinking about TRIO programs and representing, I am a proud McNair alumni of the Suffolk University program in Boston. So shout out to Suffolk in the building. You'll see some of the panelists featured here as well. Panelists, feel free to also drop your programs in the chat. I see some people diving in. Feel free to use the chat function itself to drop your programs and your names. If you have a Q&A, it looks like the chat is disabled. Okay. In the meantime, while we fix that tech issue, I apologize. Feel free to use the Q&A as an opportunity to write your programs and your affiliations. Okay, I see Heather representing TRIO SSS at Albion College. Deanna Shea, TRIO Upward Bound. Welcome. Lots of Upward Bound in the space, SSS, EOP. We have more TRIO SSS in the building. A lot of SSS folks. Welcome, Upward Bound. McNair, hey. Awesome. So as folks are using the Q&A to fill out where they're from while we figure out the chat issue, please feel free to keep using the Q&A as your space to do so, and we'll be figuring that out. But without further ado, welcome everyone on behalf of the Pell Institute at the Council for Opportunity Education. I am delighted to extend a warm welcome to each of you. My name is Stephanie Breen. You've probably seen some emails from me in the coming months about our work. But I serve as the research associate on the Pell team. I have the pleasure of opening today's webinar titled Expanding Horizons, Redefining the Value of College Credentials Through Student Voice and Holistic Lenses in Research. So I just want to give you a sense of what today's agenda will be for the webinar and the hour that we have today in this space together. We will be going over some of the latest research at the Pell Institute, focused on our research on the value of post-secondary credentials among historically marginalized students in the U.S. higher education system. We'll also have a wonderful student panel discussion with some of our student advisory board members who have been pivotal in the work in shaping and designing our study. We'll also have time where we'll conclude with a Q&A for questions that you might have about the study, as well as any questions you have for the student panel, and that'll be held at the end. Our wonderful program coordinator, Asosa Ruffin, is going to be assessing the chat, as well as the Q&A to keep track of questions and comments. To ground today's discussion, I also want to highlight our working definition of what post-secondary value means, as it is a very unique concept depending on who you ask. So at the Pell Institute, post-secondary value, and our definition of it, refers to the perceived worth or benefits associated with attaining education beyond the secondary level, usually at a college, a university, or vocational institutions. The concept of value itself can be shaped by one's identity, so someone's racial ethnic background, their age, their college-going generation status, whether they're first generation or not, as well as lived experiences, their social relationships with others in their space as they navigate their educational trajectory, and environmental influences. And why are we talking about value? So in recent years, national headlines have really called into question of college education and the value of it. And so the main debate really focuses on whether a student's economic gains from their college degree outweighs the financial investments they've made. In other words, are they truly getting a return on their investments? And as the cost of higher education continues to rise year in year, students, families, practitioners like ourselves, and policymakers have been more inclined to really assess the economic benefits from obtaining a college degree. And conversations about return on investment or economic payoff are weighed heavily specifically on certain student populations that have been historically marginalized in higher education, particularly Black, Latinx, and Indigenous learners. So as illustrated in Figure 1 on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see that there's persistent gaps in attainment for Black, Latinx, and Indigenous students. This becomes even more concerning when you take a look at the rising debt amounts for these groups, as depicted in Figure 2 on the right-hand side of your screen. So when you're considering that the rates of attainment are not really matching up to the amount of debt that students are incurring, it's a really pressing issue, especially for these marginalized groups who are just seeking to have access to education. So in light of this critical question and the value of college being constantly questioned in national headlines and day-to-day conversations with college access practitioners, families, and students, the Pell Institute and Lumina Foundation are really eager to explore how students, especially from Black, Latinx, and/or Indigenous backgrounds, perceive the value of their college degrees from both an economic standpoint as well as holistically. In other words, what do we mean by value? Or instead, what do students perceive as their value? To further explore this question, we designed a mixed method study, meaning that we took two different approaches to collect data in order to really suss this question out. And so we developed student surveys and we'll be conducting focus groups this spring. Our study is currently overseen by a student advisory board consisting of some wonderful trio of students from across the 10 regions to really ensure that student voice remains central to this work. And collaborating with TRIO students on this topic is really significant and important because there's unique experiences that students that are served by TRIO may experience while navigating college. TRIO programs, especially at the college level, like Student Support Services, the McNair Scholars Program, and Education Opportunity Centers, are designed to support individuals who have been historically marginalized. And students in TRIO programs bring out a diverse array of identities that are compounding in their experiences as they navigate higher education. And so by learning through the experiences of TRIO students, we can better understand the nuanced understanding of how value may look different depending on the student that you ask, especially students that are marginalized in our system. And so at this point, our study has, again, it consisted of 2 data collection phases. We've just wrapped up data collection phase 1, which was conducting a nationally targeted survey among college students in SSS, McNair, EOC, who identified as Black, Latinx, and/or Indigenous. In the survey, we broadly asked about the value of college credentials, as well as the associated costs to pursue a college degree. With the help of a lot of wonderful TRIO professionals in this space who have been pivotal to recruitment and really engaged in this work, we actually ended up with a sample of 1,801 student responses that spanned across 45 states, including Puerto Rico and Guam. And we were really excited to find this out at the Pell Institute, as well as the Student Advisory Board, because we really wanted there to be a diverse range of experiences highlighted in our study. So you may ask, who are the 1,801 college students? So let's take a glance at the demographic breakdown of the survey responders. So figure 3, 4, and 5, depicted on the screen now, illustrates the composition of who took the survey in terms of their program affiliation, race and ethnicity, as well as gender identity. So in regards to TRIO affiliation, 75% of the students who took the survey were from Student Support Services, followed by McNair at 19% and EOC at 6%. This was not too shocking to know that a lot of students from SSS took the program, as there's more SSS programs slated across the country than McNair EOC. In terms of race and ethnicity, 42% of students identified as Latinx, whereas 34% identified as Black, 4% identified as Indigenous, and 1% identified as other. And other really encompasses students who identified as one or more of these categories depicted here. Lastly, figure 5 depicts gender identity. And so students selected their gender identity and preference. So 77% identified as women, 19% identified as men, and 3% identified as transgender or non-binary, non-conforming. And while there's lots of women who took the survey, this is pretty consistent in what you see in survey methods and trends across different fields. So women are more likely to take surveys, are more expected to take surveys than any other group. And I think this really posits, future work for the Pell Institute to really dive into the other gender groups that were not overrepresented in this sample, to really see how they maybe perceive value in their experiences. So this is something we're thinking about at the Pell Institute, and also had conversations as a group with the advisory board for this study. In terms of age, as we know, TRIO programs serve a diverse group of students. So we actually had students who ranged from the ages of 18 to 68. And 80% of the respondents were in the age bracket of 18 to 24. In addition, over 85% of the students who took the survey were first generation, and 74% identified as Pell eligible, which was our marker for low income. Now, pause now before we get into the great stuff that y'all are waiting for and really want to learn about, and that we kind of went through as a group about what we've learned so far. So in terms of the data that I'll share with you today, as a caveat, this isn't a cross-group analysis of what we learned as a collective for Black, Latinx, and Indigenous TRIO learners, meaning that the data that I share today is going to be the overview of how this group may perceive their value of their college degrees. We're currently in the process of disaggregating the data in order to analyze based on identity, like age, gender, race, ethnicity, as well as institutional characteristics, like how does value vary from students who go to 2-year colleges and students who go to 4-year colleges. And so all this analysis is going to be coming out in our final report in October that I'll talk more about later in the webinar. But I did want us to spend the time today to be grounded and be aware that the data that I'm sharing today is a very high-level overview of how these groups at large together view the value of their post-secondary credentials. And if you're interested in the disaggregated data, please feel free to reach out to the team, and we'll keep you in the loop as we engage in that analysis process. In our survey, as I mentioned before, we broadly asked students about how they perceive the value of their post-secondary credentials. And so value can mean so many different things. And so when we created the survey, we really thought about value in 6 dimensions, which were economic, professional, familial, social, and collective. And to give insights about what some of these buckets mean, I'll share some now. So economic value refers to the tangible outcomes and financial benefits one may receive from going to college, whereas professional value involves career-related advantages, maybe having access to a career center on campus or having access to assistance for career exploration. Similarly, social value focuses on someone's social capital and social networks that one obtains from going to college and becoming a degree holder, whereas collective value relates to the broader societal impact that a college degree holder has on our communities. So perhaps having increased motivations to do civic engagement or having a larger awareness of social justice issues. So in terms of value, we thought about it in these kind of 6 core ways that I'll go over now. So in terms of economic and professional value, respondents who took the survey really believe that they want to go to college in order to secure a well-paying job, which is really exciting findings for us to see now. Students also largely agreed that colleges help them explore their career interests. And so while there was a strong consensus on having a college degree lead to economic, gains and professional gains, more than half of the students actually did not believe that a college degree is required to have a successful career. So there's a twofold there. Regarding personal value, an overwhelming majority of students who took the survey expressed a sense of pride of attending college and in their academic achievements. They also reported increased confidence and comfort with engaging in diverse perspectives and ideas. And I can also resonate as that as well. As a TRIO alum, I learned so much just from my own community and how to engage with others based on my college experiences. So I definitely resonated with this, and some of the advisory board members as well felt the same. In addition, aligning with existing research on BIPOC students' motivations for pursuing college, the students widely agreed that college credentials brought pride to their family and would positively impact their family's financial standing over time. 3/4 of students believed that their college attendance actually inspired others to follow in their footsteps, perhaps like siblings, friends, and peers. And this really complicates narratives that we see now about the decreased perceptions of worth of the worth of college, particularly in the age of social media where influencing is sometimes outweighed the value of college degrees, and the great debate that you might see on some social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok about the value of college degrees over the social media kind of uptick in interest. In addition, through their engagement in academic courses and extracurricular activities, students have developed really valuable relationships with faculty, staff, and peers, which means that we're doing some things right. In fact, 80% of students believe that the connections they make in college will help them secure opportunities in the future. And these findings really underscore that the significance of personal, familial, and social values are, in fact, important and contribute to someone's desire to reach their post-secondary goals. In their collegiate experiences, students also overwhelmingly noted an enhanced understanding of societal issues. A significant majority, 3 out of 4 students, believe that their college education has equipped them with the skills to effectively advocate for causes they care about. Students also generally believe that college has influenced their perception on volunteering and its importance. Furthermore, over 80% of students believe that their college degree will have a positive impact on their community and society at large. And I will say that this finding here is very consistent with what we know about why certain student groups, particularly Black and Latinx students, pursue undergraduate degrees and then look towards graduate degrees as a mechanism in order to power their communities. So this is very in line with the aspirations and motivations of these student groups as they pursue college as just a means to really uplift their communities. And so I was not surprised by this finding and felt very affirmed that we as a collective group are really invested in one another's success. While I talked a lot about value, we also asked students about the costs associated with pursuing a college degree. And again, this went beyond the economic cost. We really looked at it from a holistic lens. So in other words, what areas of students' lives do they need to make trade-offs in order to reach their post-secondary goals? And so 4 areas stood out. And so that was economic, personal, familial, and social. A little more than half of the students who took the survey reported having student loans. And among those who reported having student loans, almost 2/3 owe up to $20,000 in student loan debt. And while we do not have the data of the age groups who, or the level of whether it's a first-year student or a second-year student associated with these student loans, we will have that data to tell us if a first-year student is taking up to $20,000 in student loan debt, which can be a little worrisome, meaning that, you know, if this is a first-year student taking $20,000 out, what will year 2, 3, and 4 look like? And how can that be a barrier for them? So I do want to leave that as a caveat that even though it's up less than 20,000, it's still a substantial amount that one would take to pursue their college degree. Among those who have student loans, over 3/4 expressed a concern of the impact of having student loans on their financial future. And about 2/3 of those students also worried about the repayment process. Regardless of borrowing status, so if a student did or did not borrow loans, 80% of them believe that the financial sacrifices they have made for college will actually be worth it in the long run. And so this indicates that there's actually a silver lining to the financial cost that someone may incur while pursuing their post-secondary degrees. In terms of more personal, familiar, and social cost, as expected, students in the survey encountered challenges reminiscent of previous generations of college goers, such as having difficulty prioritizing academic obligations over some hobbies, and struggles balancing family, work, and their academic responsibilities. More than half of the students actually have to work multiple jobs to financially support themselves in college. So you can consider how maybe balancing a job and having to work multiple jobs in your family can really create challenges for a student trying to reach their post-secondary goals and stay on track for graduation. In fact, more than half of the students actually said that their relationships have actually been negatively impacted since going to college. And so how have they been negatively impacted? I think that's something that we're actually going to tease out in the focus groups to figure out exactly what ways and how we can mitigate those, because relationships and family support is key to a student's retention regardless. In addition, in alignment with recent discussions on the decline of mental health among undergraduate students, both pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, 2/3 of the survey respondents described struggling to manage their mental health while in college. And 1 in 3 students actually are still being challenged with meeting their basic needs. The combination of balancing one's academic, personal, and social obligations, coupled with food and housing insecurities, may explain the prevalence of mental health challenges faced by this group of college goers. In the broader social context of college environments, the survey revealed that most students did not report challenges related to diversity and representation, which was great news because we do know that campus climate can negatively deter someone's retention and graduation and persistence. However, we did find that a good amount of number, 2/3 of students did identify having challenges associated with being first gen, as well as having challenges with the imposter syndrome. In existing research and our own personal experiences for those who are first gen like myself, I know that the first gen experience can exacerbate the imposter syndrome because there's a lack of there's some additional uncertainties that one may have when navigating new educational environments without the guidance of family members who have gone through the similar experiences. So these two things for me really work in tandem with one another and something that we should further explore. And so in sum, our initial survey offers really a glimpse into the perceptions of post-secondary value and trade-offs for Black, Latinx, and Indigenous TRIO students. And so our forthcoming report will really dive deeper and provide a detailed breakdown of results based on student identity, such as race, gender, program age, as well as institutional characteristics. Again, how maybe value or trade-offs vary depending on if a student goes to a 2-year college or a 4-year college. And this in-depth analysis will help us further tease out implications for practitioners and policymakers to walk away with to see how we can target programming in our efforts specifically for these groups that may have differences in the way that they see value, even if there's a collective agreement in some aspects. And so without further ado, to provide a deeper context to our findings today, I'll now hand over the floor to Dr. Terry Vaughn III, our wonderful Vice President of Research at the Pell Institute. Dr. Vaughn will lead us through a discussion with several advisory board members, offering a richer exploration and meaning making to the survey findings that I've shared with you all today.
Well, thank you, Dr. Breen. It was central to our work with the Lumina Foundation to incorporate student voices in research about post-secondary education value. Thus, I'd like to introduce several of our student board members who will offer their perspectives to help us contextualize the preliminary findings. So, representing Student Support Services and Education Opportunity Centers, we have Andrea Haygood from Southeastern Oklahoma State University, Tyler Torres from South Central College, Malik Richardson from the University of Memphis, and Kareem Dangerfield from North Hennepin Community College. And from the McNair Scholars Program, we're joined by Anna Barbosa from Lee University, Kayon Morgan from Vermont State University, Castleton, and Percy Cordero from Westminster University, and Sharisha Jemkatel from Suffolk University. Hope I got the name right. So as a reminder, we will have time for Q&A with our students at the end. So please feel free to post any questions in the Q&A box. All right, so we're gonna get on our first question. So our first question is, what factors influenced your decision to pursue higher education after high school? And for those who took a break from college, what prompted you to return? How did your experiences during the break contribute to your decision to come back to college? So we're going to kick things off with Anna. Can you start with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess for background info, my parents immigrated from Mexico to the United States because the area where they were at, they just lived in a lot of poverty, and they knew that was starting a family. They knew that they didn't want their children to be in that situation and have better opportunities than they did in Mexico. So part of that, it started off very familial in the sense that I wanted to give myself and then my family a future or better future opportunities. And then it started becoming a little more collective because I saw everyone that would help, whether it's teachers, professors, mentors, and I realized, just the way that they impacted me, I want to do the same for others as well. So I would say a combo of both, but it did start familial and then slowly moved into collective.
Oh, cool. So family's a huge factor. How about you, Sharisha?
Mine is similar to what Anna said. My parents, I'm first gen, and my parents were the first people to really influence me to go to college because they didn't have the opportunities to pursue any education higher than middle school, and they didn't even get to finish that. So going to college was like a topic that was talked about constantly in my house. So that was part of my reason. I also wanted to go to school for law, a junior of high school, and then I initially changed it to psychology because I realized being part of the minority group, there's a lot of people that and kids as well, like they're not getting the proper health care, and especially to mental health, and a lot of minority groups, mental health is kind of overlooked at. And I wanted to become a voice for child of immigrants, minority groups to help them, just like my parents struggled and they didn't have anyone to help them or anyone to talk to. And I wanted to be a voice for people like my parents and myself.
Yeah, so it sounds like your family connections really helped to give you a sense of mission about why to get a college degree. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Kayon, how about you? What's your value?
Yeah, I would say I share like similar sentiments for sure. I was born in Jamaica and grew up. I came to the United States with my dad and my two siblings. So moved to Florida. I started living with my grandmother and she raised me. And so she'd never had the opportunity to even finish high school. And so she wanted her kids to go finish high school, graduate, and then she felt like they never did that due to lifestyle, economic struggles. And so she really instilled in her grandkids that she wanted us to go to college and have the opportunity to accomplish this. So for my need or growth for college came from family. I wanted to make my family proud. And so when I saw the data that said 91% of students largely agreed that their college credentials brought pride to their family, I resonate with that so deeply. Because that was me, that's me. And then the flip side of that was that I saw my family struggle so much financially, and so I wanted to be that change. I wanted to make them proud. So on the social factor, yes, but also economically, I wanted to maybe be the breadwinner and change the course of my family economically as well. And so those things really shaped why I decided to go and pursue higher education after high school.
Beautiful. Andrea, I imagine you have something similar, or do you have something else?
Similar as well.
Yeah.
A big part for me was having a child. When I had my son, that really prompted me to want to create a better life for us. I also wanted him to see that he was able to do difficult things. I wanted to finish because I wanted him to be able to have a parent to rely on should he decide to attend post-secondary education himself. So just kind of wanted to kind of provide that change in my family, I guess you would say, so that the generational trauma and other things that kind of led into the difficulty wouldn't be as prominent.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like the way all of you started talking about family, it really highlights the importance of having a holistic perspective, because there's so many different variables and categories and people in your lives that sort of defining this decision to go to college, right? Yeah. So now that each of you are in the midst of completing your post-secondary credentials, right? Have your perceptions of the value of college changed since you enrolled and participated? So if so, how have they changed? So we're going to start with Malik. Can we begin with you? Have they changed at all?
Oh yeah, most definitely. So I graduated high school in 2019 and I really didn't have a plan. I wanted to be someone successful. I want to start like a really good business. And, like social media makes it seem you don't have to have a college degree to do anything. So I started working in entry-level jobs and like talking to people like that about my dreams, my aspirations. And they would tell me like how they dropped out of college or how they didn't finish and how they were stuck in that place. And so I didn't want to be stuck in that place. So I decided to take the risk and go ahead and pay the little student loans to come to college. And once I came, I started getting involved in communities and different people on campus who also have the same goal as me. And I've been able to grow with them and also become the person that I'm becoming now and become an advocate for first generation students and people that's coming into new environments and making a change.
Hey, Tyler, how about you? Something similar?
Yeah, I would say so. I believe most people enter college either to improve their socioeconomic status or just because they've been thrust into the adult space and told they must develop a marketable skill. I think that's supported by the 92% of individuals who join college to get a high earning job. Although as students in higher education, I think it's imperative that our beliefs transform from pure monetary advancement to innovating our means of learning and ultimately our dissemination of that knowledge to future generations. I know that I was able to follow just that path, mainly due to the interactions and mentoring I've had in college thus far.
And so being in college really opened up different connections, social capitals, different networks that allows you to sort of see the value of that degree differently. Yeah. Kareem, what about you?
My value on college has completely changed because I didn't put a value on college at all whatsoever. Nobody around me was going to college. I was pretty much around pimps, pushes, prostitutes. And so none of them was saying, hey, buddy, go to school and get an education. No, it was get the money you can right now. And so this survey and everything that we're doing is about perception. So that's the first thing that I did. I changed the perception of the things that I was looking at. Okay, if I want my life to be different, then how about I perceive things differently than what everyone else is telling me? So that's exactly what I did, right? As I grew up, I'm a pretty big guy. I'm 6'3", 300 pounds, right? So most of my life, I've been a bounty hunter, predator watch agent, rough stuff. And I was in an accident and that changed everything, right? And so I had no choice at the time but to start thinking, I have to start finding another way to move forward in life. And so education was the first thing that came to my mind. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. So kind of just showed up at North Hennepin Community College and talked to the people in the TRIO program. And that was it. They were wonderful. They helped me with tutoring, which I need quite a bit of. You know, they talk to you about scholarships and take you on campus tours to help you further succeed in life. So, you know, it's been wonderful to me, and my value, the way that I look at the value of college is completely different. And for me, now I'm able to go back, you know, and tell other hood dudes, listen, what you're doing right now is not going to change. Why don't you follow me and I can take you to a different route? So I want to be able to do it first so that I can go back and tell everybody else, all right, I did it. Let me bring you along with me. So that's very important to me.
Yeah, are you in a political science? You going to run for something? That change of perception is beautiful, beautiful. I love that. Percy, what about you?
So college actually started as something I kind of was like told to do. All of my life, my mom was like, you're going to go to college. You're going to go to college. Now, I come from a family of performers. I didn't know that you can go to college for theater. And so I'm really glad that I did that. And I didn't know exactly what I was looking for until I was actually looking at colleges. And in the end, it became like a big old networking thing. And being the type of field that I'm in, I'm basically just a freelancer actor. So with everything that I'm learning how to do my taxes. I didn't even think I was going to even consider master's degrees. So I just did a whole audition for MFA acting degrees so that I can eventually be an acting professor, which is something I didn't even think I wanted until I got to college. And the experiences and opportunities that I was given, this being one of them, being in McNair was nothing. I didn't even know about McNair until my junior year, I think. And I really loved the research. Like there are so many different things that I learned by just saying, whatever, I'm going to college because I got to get out of this house because it's better for my mental health. And now I'm really excited to know like where my life takes me now, because now it's just an open book. I just thought it was one linear thing, and now I have so much on my plate and I'm very excited about it. So perception of college really became more valuable to me and my education became more valuable to me, and what I can do for other people and what I can do for my community, for my disabled community, because I'm autistic, or my queer community is being a trailblazing trans actor. There isn't a lot of those out there, but I mean, I've met so many different people that want the same thing as I do. So if I didn't go to college, I don't think I would have had any of that, especially community. So
Yeah, so it sounds like it really raised your, give you a new horizon, right? And having the right social supports and able to, support that journey along the way, talking about new careers you not haven't even thought about before, right? Oh, awesome. So my next question is, can you all share some of the barriers or challenges you faced in college based on your most salient identities? And Percy, you talked a little bit about this as well, right? And how overcoming them has shaped your perspective on its value. So I'm going to go back to Malik. Can you talk a little bit about this?
Oh yeah, most definitely. So when I came to college, my biggest problem was I didn't feel like I belonged. When I walked in the rooms, I seen faces that wasn't familiar. I talked with a certain type of language or slang that everybody doesn't understand. And when I did like group work and group assignments, it was like I felt like the black sheep. It was like anything that I said, you would take it the wrong way when I meant it a whole nother way. But what changed was I start to see how much power I have in my voice and in my community and how many people I'm actually speaking for when I do speak. So I learned ways to network and talk like through teamwork, team activities, and different projects like this one, which helped me increase my value and knowing how much my voice is worth.
Beautiful. Sharisha, how about you?
I would say around same what Malik said. Adapting to a new culture, coming to a place where there's so much diversity. For me, it was a little bit overwhelming because I felt like I didn't know where I belonged at first. I didn't know where I should go, who I should talk to. Until I found kind of like the McNair program. Like Percy said, I didn't know like McNair even like existed until like almost the end of my sophomore year. And I feel like being part of the McNair program has made me feel like I belong somewhere, because without the McNair program, I felt like I was so lost. I didn't know where I was, like what I was doing, until I got into the program and I met so many wonderful people that are a lot now like my closest friends. And I feel like I have so much I can relate to, even though we all come from different backgrounds. We all like can relate to similar backgrounds and the perspectives that we share, like all of us being first gen and relating back to our parents, all that, like trying to help people, being able to be proud of ourselves and making our parents proud. I feel like that really has shaped my perspectives on like being in college, but also like with the financial too. My parents work two jobs and I also work to help them provide to pay for my education. So that financial barrier also comes to a little bit of difficulty, because then I wouldn't be able to participate in a lot of activities and the events that happen in college. So that also makes me feel like I'm not fitting in enough, or if I'm not being active enough in my own school, and that makes me feel kind of left out. But being part of this community has really helped me change my perspectives and feel like I belong somewhere.
Yeah, so similar to Malik, so Sharisha, the idea like going to college and not feeling like you belong and then finding that community. As a McNair alum myself, I understand exactly what you mean. And once you find that community, you can begin to start to make sense of some of the institutional arrangements and connections to find your future, right? So how about Kayon, how about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think similar as well to what everyone else has said so far. I think for me, a lot of my barriers came from being first generation Black woman. And then I've also decided to go to institution in Vermont, the whitest state in our nation. And my family is all in Florida. And so one part of that was the struggle with one, you want to make your family proud, but also the familial expectations. They wanted me to stay close. And so one of the big parts of that was advocating for myself, that there's an opportunity for me to go out into the world and do big things. And I stood up for myself and I went. And that kind of put a lot of pressure on me to making sure that I couldn't fail, I couldn't trip, I couldn't mess up. And so when I went to Vermont, one of the biggest things that I struggled with was community. And for me, that's why I'm even so thankful to be a part of this project and doing this work, because there is so much power and strength and motivation in community. And that when I found that similarly in the McNair Scholars Program, students that are coming from nothing, first generation doing this, and just being able to talk and relate to people in these spaces, that was like, it pushed me. I was able to do so much with the collaboration with McNair Scholars Program through research and just connecting and meeting other people and networking as well. And so that has just been changed the entire journey of my college experience. It has made me stronger and more passionate about what I want to do. And it's given me my voice as well. And so, yeah, it's definitely has its barriers and its struggles, but at the end, it's been so rewarding because I've grown so much. And of course, financial is always a barrier. I'm still not where I want to be financially, and I'm not sure if any of us are, to be honest, until we've graduated. But we are looking forward to that, that whatever the growth, the journey, it is going to pay off financially. And so we can see that and redeem that. So yeah.
Oh, perfect. And even like, especially in a place, you said Vermont, right? Especially community is important as a Black woman, right? Andrea, how about you?
The process just seemed very difficult being a Cherokee citizen. I knew there was financial assistance. There were different things that could help me, but I wasn't raised, first of all, being proud about being Cherokee. So I would also say, I guess, like a culturally biased curriculum. But I was just really scared of failure. And so when I found student support services, it almost felt like finding a cheerleader to kind of hold my hand, let me know, that everything was going to be fine and that I could do this.
Yeah, and I think most people, all of us can relate when we first went to college and feeling scared, as Malik, you pointed out, not feeling like people misreading you, people not knowing what you're thinking. But yeah, when you do find that, again, the common theme here amongst all of you is community. When you do find that community that allows you to bring your humanity to why you're going to college, we really begin to see the different values of why you are there, why you are in that space. So I think this is just wonderful. So I want to be mindful of time, but I do have one more question for all of us. So this is our last question for the group. What advice would you give to high school students or individuals considering whether to pursue a college degree? So Tyler, I'm going to come back to you if that's all right.
Yeah, for sure, Jerry.
Yeah.
It's important to identify why someone wants to go to college in the first place, and if college has the means to fulfill one's current purpose in life. College is not for everyone in the sense that trades aren't for everyone, and just as entering the workforce at 18 isn't. One must figure out what is important to them and ultimately how they wish to balance doing what is important to them and what is important for them. There might be parents, friends, counselors that will doubt their ability to succeed in such daunting things. Most high schoolers do not know what they want to do with the rest of their lives, and I very much fell in that boat after graduating in 2020. Regardless of that setting, I think it's essential to find an environment conducive to the goals set for oneself and to advocate for that environment until one is satisfied they have accomplished those goals. It's important to remember it's not a race. I think there might be some high schoolers in here, and if some high schoolers do end up watching this recording, it doesn't matter what track our peers are on. As I start my bachelor's program and I graduate with my AS degree, it will have taken me about 4 total years of enrollment time to get what is traditionally a 2-year degree. And that's okay. It may feel like you're the only one struggling with the college experience, but there are many others like you and like us, and TRIO programs are definitely here for that.
Yeah, Tyler, what you're saying reminds me of a saying you used to hear back in track and field: run your race, right? Run your race. And it's true for your college degree as well. Everyone's running their own race, and we're trying to get there. And through community, we all can get there. We're going to get there. So how about Percy? What do you have to add to this?
Probably my biggest suggestion is when you are researching for colleges, I would highly recommend going through, because a lot of the websites will have like a student section where there are like certain programs. And that's kind of how I found the First Scholars program at my own school, which kind of helped me kind of integrate into the college experience. It's for first generation students, and they give me a lot of funding as well. So I would not have been able to find that if I didn't actually do the research. And that's currently what I'm learning right now when looking at master's programs and looking at places to actually live. Really do your research. And I mean, feel free to like message some of those students from those colleges and be like, hey, what's the community? Do you have a community there? Are there places for people like me? You know, what is this experience like? So that's been very helpful for me, especially looking at like there was Queer Compass that I actually got to work on as well. There's a lot of just different things that you can find on those student kind of parts of the website, because that's kind of where you're going to be spending most of like, you know, your community and, you know, finding a lot of those. So that's kind of my biggest suggestion when looking at colleges and stuff.
Be proactive, go after it. Don't let life just happen to you, right? Even though there's these wonderful communities out here, you still got to put yourself out and find those spaces, correct? Cool. Kareem, how about you?
I would say not only to people that are in high school, but beyond. The last time I was in school was 1994. So that was quite some time ago. But I would just tell them, no one is going to invest in you more than you are willing to invest in yourself. So educate yourself. Be the first pebble in the pond and just watch the ripple effects, you know? And people always say, you know, well, it's better to give than it is to receive. Well, personally, I feel like you can enjoy both. I feel like you can give yourself an education, and those around you can be receivers of the benefits of that. I have always told myself, no matter what anyone tells you, you know who you are. So stick to that. That's about all I would tell them.
Beautiful, beautiful. Anna, how about you? What do you have to say?
Yeah, and to kind of echo to everyone else as well, something that my McNair program coordinator tells us, or one of the first things he told me when I was first interviewing was, it's not that there's a lack of resources sometimes, it's that we don't know where to look for them. And I'm speaking for myself in the sense that I hate asking for help. I hate being that person because I don't want to be a burden or inconvenience for anyone. So he's really helped me with that in the sense of if you don't ask, you're not going to know, you're not going to receive. And because I've been asking and all that, fortunately, I'll be graduating loan free. So, you know, that wouldn't have happened if I didn't ask and I didn't put myself out there, kind of like everyone else was saying. So that's what I would recommend or suggest.
Yeah. So like Kareem, what you're saying, Anna, what you're saying, invest in yourself and go after it and ask. These things can make a huge difference in finding the community that we all are going to need in order to be successful, not just with our college degree, but also after, right, once we get the college degree. So I want to thank you all. Would like to thank our wonderful student board members for sharing their perspective on these questions. So we're now going to turn to our Q&A. So I have our lovely coordinator, Sosa. Can you share any questions the audience may have for our student board?
Yes. So our first question, and this is actually a question for Dr. Breen. This is from Christopher Sanders from Whatcom Community College. And Christopher asks if you can elaborate on the difference of the 92 students of students, 92% of students who thought a college education would help get a good job, and the 52% who thought a college education was not needed for a good job. He says that overlap is a bit confusing. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Christopher, for that question. I think reading through the data, that was also kind of a moment where we had to take a pause and figure out the complexities of really what's going on here. So I think of it in two ways. One, 90% of students who took the survey believe that the degree itself will benefit them in their career goals. That's the way that we're perceiving that, versus the 52% that believe that a college education may not be suitable or something that others may need depending on their goals. So one is more individual versus how other folks outside of them may use or utilize a degree depending on their career goals, family goals, and a different just life goals that they may have. But I think you raised a really good point that it is a bit confusing with the overlap and how someone's individual aspirations might differ from those outside of them. And so I think this is something that we'll definitely parse out in the student focus groups that we will be doing this spring, to really dive into other overlaps that we're seeing and some complexities in the data. And I think, this brings the importance of why mixed methods of research is very important, because you learn so much from surveys and the numbers tell such an interesting story, yet also diving into the narratives can also kind of paint a different picture or nuance some of the findings we have. So I hope that gives them more insight into the 92% versus 52%.
Thank you, Dr. Breen. And then we have Angie Balch from the University of, let's see, Southern Indiana. And Angie asks, she's the event planner for the SSS program there. And her question is for the students. She asks, what events help you the most, or would you like to see in the future that would be most beneficial to you and other students? So do we have any students that would be willing to take that question? Andrea, go ahead.
Right. So I found out about student support services through one of my professors. She was talking about the program since we were all education majors, and told me about it. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this sounds like exactly what I might need to help me finish. And so I was glad that I found out from a professor. Also, I believe that finding out from her really kind of sealed the deal. I trust her a lot. And so that's how I found out.
Nice. I saw a few other hands up. Percy, did you want to answer as well? And maybe Kayon afterwards?
Yeah, for my McNair program, we're actually trying to do some events where we're kind of having a lot more community. My department is also doing that, where we have more community lunches so that we can kind of network and like start talking and kind of get to know each other a lot more. Over the summer during like McNair research, that was we did a lot of like trying to go out and like kind of hang out with each other and kind of understand what's going on. So I think lunches has been something that I've been seeing with a lot of different departments doing to try and invoke a little bit more community. So that's just kind of my little spiel.
Thanks, Percy. How about you, Kayon?
I was gonna say, there was two events. One of them was First Generation Day. That was really, really impactful on my campus. My McNair director, she hosted it. So it's always nice just being in a room with other students that are kind of from the same background, got on the same journey with you. And then I would say, like, when I first started college, I came in thinking like law school was what I wanted to do. And though there's nothing wrong with law school and that's your path, 100%. But when I first heard about like McNair Scholars Program, one of the things, or TRIA, my McNair, especially McNair, it was, oh, graduate school. And I was like, what is that? And so one of the things that was really, really beneficial for me was programming that one that talked about other options, or also just career fields. Like a lot of students, they're thinking they go to college, get this degree, and what do I do next with it? What are some ways that I can apply this degree outside of my institution? And so I think programming that kind of works around providing different options for students, and kind of talking about ways that they can elaborate or use their degree fields. I think that's going to also be really impactful because it gave me the option of learning about graduate school and actually considering that this is something I want to do, which led me to pursue McNair, and find out if it fit me. But yeah.
Thank you. Our next question is from Sunny Mall, who's joining us from the University of Alaska Anchorage McNair Scholars Program. And Sunny asks to the students, if your lives work out the best you can imagine, where will you be in 5 or 10 years? Who would like to start? Go ahead, Kareem.
And if it works out like I would like for it to, I'll still be in school because I'm pursuing right now 2 degrees. I'm pursuing a master's in computer data science and a doctorate in neurocognitive psychology. And so eventually, maybe in 10 years, I would say I'll have my own practice, I'll be done with internships, and I'll be able to offset what I'm doing as far as helping in clinics and things like that. I'd like to give out free mental health services. But in order to do that, I'm realistic. I have to live too. So my computer programming degree will be able to help me financially help other people with their mental health. So in 10 years, that's what I want to be able to do.
Nice. And I think, Sharisha, did you also want to chime in?
Yeah, mine, Kareem said what I was gonna say exactly. I'm gonna be in school. I'm trying to pursue my PhD, after my bachelor's within a year. And then after that, like Kareem said, to open up my own practice after done with all the clinicals and the internships, and also offer free mental health services as much as I can, especially traveling to other underdeveloped countries and educate them on mental health education, because I feel like um, there's a lot of uncertainty and they don't really trust the mental health. If you tell people that they have depression or anxiety, they brush it off or they don't believe in them. So I want to be able to tell them that it's normal, and it's that, there's so much we can do to help them, and it really educate them on the mental health services.
Nice, thank you. Let's see. Our next question is from Shelly Siegel at the North Hennepin Community College in Minnesota. And Shelly asks, what do the students think of the faculty and what they can do to support students who are first gen? Go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, so it helps a lot when you can see yourself in the professor, in the sense of my mentor specifically is also a first-gen college student, so he understands the struggles as well. That's not to say that if your professor isn't first-gen, they can't help you, because they absolutely can. But it's a different connection when they've been through what you've been through as well, and they know the struggle. Now, all that to say, if they're not first-gen, I think what's helped a lot is honestly just educating your professors about the struggles, because they may be ignorant, not because they're trying to be ugly or disrespectful, but they literally don't know. So just honestly, just being open and honest with them and talking to them about stuff that they might not have had to face before, or just simply, again, because they don't know.
Absolutely. Thank you, Anna. And Tyler, did you want to speak on that next?
Yeah, I did. I think this is a really important question. I remember my first year before I was affiliated with Trio, and we were all online, and I am a first generation student. I did miserable, as I didn't really know how to contact my advisors. I didn't have anybody who was really making sure I was, sticking to online school and adjusting to college. I really think first generation college student day is incredibly important for getting that word out and letting you know that there are other students on campus that are first gen and have similar issues. I know our program, we have a thing at South Central called the Trio Leadership Council, which is, I'm not sure if it's a relatively new thing, but I know in the last year or two since I've been there, it's kind of picking up pace. And I was a part of it the last year or so, and we held First Generation College Student Day on campus, and the students helped direct the event, and we made a board, and we spent, an hour or two corralling students all over campus, sending them that way to the booth, letting them know that Trio programs exist. And honestly, the majority of people didn't even realize that they were eligible to join Trio programs. So just having that outreach, having students go out and talk to other students, and making that as inclusive as possible from a student's perspective and not just faculty, because obviously our perspective on inclusivity is going to be different, is really important. So.
Thank you. And I know we're at time. Malik, I did see you had, did you want to add something on this question before we wrap up?
Yes, I can add a bit on. So me and my advisor actually went to the same high school, and so he's from that community, from that area. So he knows like actually what's going on, what's the problem. And he was able to help me find out other organizations that I can use to my advantage, and also go to other networking events that I use to, better speak and become a better student and person and advocate as well.
Thank you so much for sharing. And that's gonna wrap up our live Q&A section. And if you do have any additional questions, you can feel free to give Dr. Breen an email, and we're happy to assist you with that.
Thank you so much, Asosa and the student panelists, for answering these questions and leading it. We appreciate everyone's engagement in the chat and the Q&A and being here present with us today. As I mentioned before, as our work progresses, please anticipate a final report in October 2024. We'll actually be taking registration for the next webinar that will actually go in depth, even more in detail, into the findings and the nuances of what we've learned. So I'll drop that registration link into the chat. We'll take your information and make sure that you're squared away with the proper Zoom link when the time comes. But thank you so much for your support. We appreciate you for being here and listening to us today. And thank you so much to the panelists. Y'all are awesome and never cease to amaze me. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.